And a good Tuesday evening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching NBC6 Voices. On our Facebook and YouTube pages, I'm Jawan Strader. Well, Haiti is experiencing higher than average rates of kidnappings by local gangs. American citizens who visit the country are also being kidnapped. Most recently, 16 Americans and 1 Canadian on a missionary trip from Ohio were taken by a gang. For over a week now, we've been covering the efforts to rescue the 17 kidnapped missionaries in Haiti. Hear from a man who has firsthand knowledge of what those 17 people are going through. He was kidnapped and held for ransom and beaten. NBC6 reporter Jamie Garola has his story.
The security of Americans abroad will always be one of the principal issues for our government overall.
NBC6 anchor Jackie Nesbrough sat down exclusively with Gentry Smith, Assistant Secretary for the Department of State.
And so we are monitoring the situation as it is unfolding in Haiti at this time. There's an interagency activity to ensure that our people are returned safely.
The abductors demanding $1 million per person. The FBI won't comment on the negotiation, and the White House says it's U.S. policy not to pay ransom for hostages.
You can feel for them, but you won't really understand what's really going on in that place.
This South Florida man, who asked us to call him Jimmy, says he too was abducted in Haiti 16 years ago. The 44-year-old still remembers it like it was yesterday.
And then they cover my face again without asking any question. And some, like 2 or 3 guys came in, and then they start beating me. I mean, that was some big hits.
Jimmy was walking with his wife, taking their 22-day-old son to the hospital when he says 3 men with guns kidnapped him.
I didn't know what to do or what to say.
Jimmy says he was beaten and held for ransom. The criminals wanted money, $12,000 US. His employer helped round up the cash, and Jimmy was released the same day. He says his abduction was a big eye-opener about the prevalence of kidnappings.
This is a big deal because that day I realized how serious it was, and this is nothing compared to what happened today.
The hostages now include 16 Americans and 1 Canadian. Among them, 5 children ranging in age from 8 months to 15 years old. In Miami, Jamie Garola, NBC6 News.
Now, according to UNICEF, the number of women and children kidnapped in the first 8 months of this year has surpassed the total for all of last year. And Haiti has seen nearly 800 kidnappings this year, and these kidnappings have become more violent than those in the past. So why are these kidnappings happening, and what do the gangs want? Let's hear from Francesca Menez. Francesca is the co-founder and board chair of the Black Collective. She also is a political educator and first-generation Haitian Dominican American from Little Haiti. I spoke with her earlier, and she explains why there has been an increase in kidnappings in Haiti. Take a listen.
I mean, it's increasing because, of course, there's an increased level of instability within Haiti right now. And with the recent assassination of the Haitian president, the fact that there's an ongoing investigation that has really slowed down, particularly when evidence arise that pointed to the current prime minister, it's definitely increased where people kind of feel like Haiti is in this free-for-all and that there is no real governance in the country right now.
And for all those people out there that are watching us, watching you on Voices, just so they know, Francesca is a political educator and first-generation Haitian Dominican American raised in Little Haiti, so she knows what she's talking about. I just want to preface that, just so they know that you're just not just saying these things just to be saying them. You know what you're talking about. So, Francesca, let's talk about the gangs and the instability as far as what needs to be done, because you can't just continue to have kidnappings after kidnappings that have gotten worse. You have school children being kidnapped. You even have peddlers on the side of the street being kidnapped, whereas before that wasn't the case.
I mean, the thing is that kidnapping is basically becoming the means in which you feed yourself. And so many people are just kind of taking it upon themselves because, again, of the instability, because there is no real governance structure, because, again, that there is like the allegations that even police are part of these kidnappings, and even the government has been part of these kidnappings. people are just like, well, this is the only way that I'm going to be able to survive. This is the only way that I'm going to be able to eat in this country. And so this is why we've seen this increase in kidnappings, because of course, yes, we've seen the massive amount of gangs that are coordinating these kidnappings, but the smaller ones where you see the street vendor, when you see the child is being kidnapped, it's because people are seeing like this is their way, this is their livelihood, and this is the way that they're going to eat at the end of the day. And it's very unfortunate that the everyday citizens of Haiti now have to basically suffer at the hands of this because of the instability and because, again, of the politics in Haiti that has been playing out. But we ultimately know at the end of the day, all of this has to do with, and it's a culmination of years of U.S. interference within the governance of Haiti, the U.S. interference in choosing the puppet presidents and how they choose to manage the country, and has gotten us to this point.
So you're hitting it. You're hitting on some areas there. Of course, that's a deeper conversation. Choosing the puppet presidents, because I've heard about that. And those who know a little bit of Haiti politics, they know what really is going on behind closed doors. But we're not going to talk about that because there's so much more to delve into, like what needs to be done to rectify some of these kidnappings and what can folks do right now. I mean, there are people here that want to help Haiti in so many different ways, but it seems like our hands are tied in trying to help in other areas, because of course we want to get food on the ground. But the gangs take them. The gangs take the food, or you have to go through the gangs in order to get the food there. So what do you think needs to be done in order to help rectify just some of the issues? And here with me today. All right. Okay, we apologize for that. To continue our conversation, we're having some technical difficulties. You gotta love technology in the age of COVID. But let's continue our conversation, and we want to definitely thank Francesca for that conversation and her insight. We're going to move on now with Leonie Marie Herminton. Leonie Marie Herminton. Please welcome her to the show right now. There she is. Leonie, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for bearing with us as we deal with a little technical difficulties there. Well, Leonie is the director of Santla, a Haitian neighborhood center here in South Florida. And she's here to give us her perspective on everything that's happening with the kidnappings that have been going on. So, Leonie, let's talk a little bit about that. Well, why do you believe that we've seen an increase in the kidnappings?
Thank you. Let me just correct. I'm the director of development at Santla. Gypsy Metalis is the executive director at Santla. So what's happening in Haiti? Why the increase in kidnappings? I think that it's, as Francesca said, it's a combination of multiple reasons. Kidnappings and gang the growth of gangs has definitely been fueled by the desires of some in office to create a climate of fear and instability in the country. Remember that prior to the assassination of the president, there were elections that were planned, and it has been a tried and true strategy to get people to stay at home if you increase the climate, the environment of instability. So many times, yes, gang violence is fueled by poverty, but it is also sometimes instigated by political operatives who want people to stay at home so that they do not go out to vote. So let's just make that part clear. Gang violence is also instigated and fueled by the importation of illegal arms in Haiti. There is not one store where you can walk in and say, I need an Uzi. All of those transactions take place in the black market. But there are folks in Haiti who make, and in the United States, because all of these guns and ammunition come from the United States. There are parties both in Haiti, in the Dominican Republic, and in the United States who are making a fortune of the misery of the Haitian people.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's what Francesca was kind of getting into a little bit. She was talking about the fact that there are these ties, political ties to some of these gangs in Haiti. A lot of people really don't talk about that. They kind of shy away from that. Is that true? And if like even Jovenel Moise, there were before, I even had people on the show before in the past that talked about his relationship with some of these gangs.
He federated. I mean, he's considered now that he's died, that he was assassinated, a martyr. But this is a man who federated gangs. There's something called G9 in Haiti. G9, you touch one, you touch us all. Well, this is a legally recognized federation of gang under the rule of Jovenel Moise. And to this day, he's their hero as they, continue to wreak havoc, not just in Port-au-Prince, but throughout the country. They continue to uphold him as their hero.
And because of the violence with the gangs and the stronghold that they have on many there in Haiti, do you believe that that's cause for the rise of so many Haitians wanting to seek refuge in the United States and other parts of the world?
Absolutely, Joanne. Within Port-au-Prince, there are 20,000 and more internally displaced people in Haiti. 10,000 of whom are children under the age of 10. These are folks who were pushed out of their homes in the areas of Martissant, Bel Air by these gangs, and who are living under unimaginable conditions. They are sheltered by the IOM, they are sheltered by certain organizations, but no one wants to go near them, because to go near them would be to place oneself at the epicenter of that violence. So I just want to say that, yes, a lot of people are kidnapped. A lot of Haitians are kidnapped. Haitian Americans are kidnapped. But the tragedy for me is that there are 20,000 people who have been rendered poor people, already vulnerable, who have been rendered even more vulnerable by gang violence and gang takeover of neighborhoods. They're just taking over.
And Leonie, do you believe the president is doing enough? Do you believe that President Biden has broken his promises to the Haitian people, or do you believe
absolutely.
Do you believe he's?
Oh, absolutely. We are heartbroken. There's no other word to talk about the disappointment at what we feel is a huge betrayal of having, not just broken his word, broken the vice president's word, but really demonstrated to us that the immigration policy can still be reduced to the issue of color. Because when these Haitians were coming in, the first news report reported that they were not alone. They were coming in with Cubans, Venezuelans, Central Americans, and then suddenly mention of other groups was dropped. It became from they came with Cubans, Venezuelans, etc., to they came with others. And so we don't know what happened to the others, but we know with certainty that the others were given the opportunity to be heard. HB 12 was not invoked for them, and certainly they were not put on a plane and returned to the geography of their misery without even being given the opportunity to say why they were seeking asylum in the US. To us, that is the deepest level of betrayal possible.
Amen. And of course, I know we talked about this on our show before, because we talked a little bit about that. And I want to ask you about TPS. Do you believe that the rise in kidnappings play a large role in the amount of people applying for TPS as well?
Absolutely. I mean, anyone with a visa, and out migration takes place in different ways. You get on a boat, you get on a plane to Brazil or Chile, then you make your way when things get really bad, because let's just say that people did not make that trek from Brazil or Chile when they had government that respected them as Black people. And things turned when you had Trump-like presidents began to turn, to really impose their apartheid on these folks. So let's just be clear about why they started marching north. But you have folks who had visitors visas. They would come in, have good jobs in Haiti. They would come in once in a while to go shopping, etc. But life has become so untenable, unlivable for so many that, at great cost to themselves and to their families, they've decided to come to the United States because it is truly a matter of life and death. It has nothing to do with economics, because I know doctors, engineers, NGO administrators who left the country because they just could not deal with the fear, the stress, the threats, and this constant fear of violence.
Well, Leonie, there's so much, of course, I'm sure, different ways to approach this, so many different ways to approach the issues that are happening in Haiti right now. But going back to the kidnappings, I want to hear from you. What do you think needs to be done? And you didn't get a chance to hear from Francesca when I asked her the same question because of the technical issues. But when I asked her, I posed to her the question of, should the UN go in? Should the United States go in with security? She somewhat disagreed with that approach because she was talking about the stability in Haiti, and the Haitian people must need to govern themselves,
right?
Without having all the interference from the West. And
so we have interference, Joanne, let's be clear.
Exactly.
There's something called the core group in Haiti, which is made up of the United States, the European Union, Canada. They make the decision. So the idea that there is no foreign intervention is a joke. The question has been, how has Haiti benefited from foreign intervention? How has Haiti benefited from the investments made by the State Department through USAID to Haiti?
She kept mentioning about the trust, Leonie, and I hate to cut you off, but the trust, because so many times they've gotten involved to try to help, and the trust has been broken over and over and over again.
Because they don't want to listen to Haitian voices. They want elections by selection. They want quick solutions because, interestingly enough, paradoxically, American policy has been driven by this fear of illegal migration, right? They don't want people getting on boats. So they want to create this facade of stability, of political growth. And so they support these makeshift elections. And you have to be in Haiti to understand what a joke it is. Me and my sister could create a political party around election times. Around election times, you see the mushrooming of political activity. You have 30 people running for president because the international community supports a candidate. So I want to make some money. I'll create a political party and I'll run and then disappear. And so the investment in quote unquote elections contributes to the destabilizing of the country, not investing in institutions. Haiti has no functioning institution, none. No judiciary, no police, and not even a good watchdog. No institution is standing to uplift and project and represent the Haitian people. And that's why I think that you said that we were powerless here. We're not powerless. We're all Americans. And as Americans, we have to continue, particularly those who are concerned about racial justice.
Amen.
It's happening to Black people. This is happening to the descendants of those folks who gave us a mark in history as Black people in the Americas. And so it behooves us really to stand up for Haiti, to stand up for a Haitian solution. Yes, we want the gangs disarmed. Yes, we want that. And I'm telling you, the temptation to say, yeah, go send the Marines and kick them, in the where, we're tempted to do that. But when you listen to voices from Haiti, to the commission, a group of people who came together to articulate, to begin to work on Haitian solutions to the problem, you know that intervention, this sort of the UN stayed in Haiti for 20 something years. And in leaving, did not even create institutions that would replace them in a meaningful way. The US has invaded Haiti on multiple times and only left destruction and suffering in their wake as they leave. And so we know that this has not worked, and we are not encouraging this. It's going to be a painful process, but
Yes.
we know that we have to allow for Haitian solutions. If they don't work, then it's on us. But
That's right.
we have to allow Haitians to articulate the solutions for what they have, the realities that they live every day. We don't
That's
live,
right.
as a Haitian American, I don't live it. I can't tell Haitians in Haiti what to do because I can always get on a plane and come back to the United States. They live in that reality. And we
But
have to give them the space and uplift their voices as they
there
try
you go.
to be heard by Washington.
Their voices must be uplifted. We must hear the voices from the Haitian people in order for some sort of change to happen. And that's what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing from you, Leonie.
Absolutely.
All right, Leonie, thank you so much for your insight. As always, very well said, very well said. And we can only hope and pray for Haiti and
My
continue to do
pleasure.
so.
And I thank you also for giving us the opportunity. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to talk about the Haitian people. And they're very grateful that you don't stop at the the crisis is over and we're moving on to the next subject. So thank you so much, Joanne, for making this possible.
Leonie Hermenton, thank you so much. And I'm always here to use my platform to make sure that we get your voices out there and the Haitian people. And let's just can only continue to pray for change in Haiti.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Leonie.
Thank you.
You got it. And so I want to thank you for joining us tonight for NBC6 Voices. Of course, you can rewatch this episode on our Facebook and YouTube pages or on Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Jawan NBC6. Let me know what you thought about the episode here tonight as we continue to get those voices out there. You can also message us on social media if you have a story idea. And before we go, remember, education is the key to success. If you believe, you will succeed. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.